is going on, YouTube? We are here. It's finally happening. I've got a great group of guys here, and we are going to talk about our initial thoughts from our first weekend of Pokemon Legends Arceus. If you guys don't know, Pokemon Legends Arceus, probably one of the most ambitious Pokemon titles in recent years, just came out this past weekend. It is an open world RPG set in the ancient land of Sinnoh known as Hisui, and I got a couple of amazing content creators, podcasters, and streamers here with me tonight to talk about it. Starting off with the host of the Gate Expectations podcast, we got Gate Guardian 44. Tell us a little bit about yourself, friend.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yes, I run a Yu-Gi-Oh podcast known as the Gate Expectations podcast. And professionally, I am a journalist by trade. So I'm actually the only journalist that actually runs a professional Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. And basically what I do is I will take, one person with me, or perhaps even two, and we will talk mainly about them. It's kind of an interview in depth with them, about like maybe current events, anything that's kind of revolved around them. I kind of go back and forth a little bit between. So that's what my Yu-Gi-Oh podcast is all about. If you'd like to check it out, just search up Gate Guardian 44 on YouTube. You will find my podcast there. It's also available on Apple and Spotify and several other podcasts as well.
Alrighty, and down below me we have SoloisTV, host of, correct me if I get the name wrong, I believe the Highwind Herald podcast.
That is right. Thanks for having me. It's good to meet you too as well. I do too many things. I stream, I make YouTube videos, I run two podcasts, Highwind Herald, Final Fantasy focused, and a new podcast that launched 2 weeks ago called Sibling Gibberish, which is me and my sister talking about whatever we want to, basically. So a lot of fun stuff happens, but I also stream a lot of Pokemon and just whatever comes to mind. So thanks for having me. I have a lot of thoughts today.
And last but not least, we have Twitch streamer ZPokePlayZ. Tell us what else you do, friend.
Just basically a bit of a Yu-Gi-Oh streamer at times. Play a lot of Pokemon. Just, just chilling out, having a good time.
Alrighty, and like I said, tonight we are here to talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus. Wow. That's all I can say right off the bat is wow. Tell us before we get into it. We'll start with you, Gate Guardian. Tell us your initial thoughts from your first weekend with the game.
All I can say is right off the bat, it is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild mixed with Pokemon. When you first look at it, and I say that because first of all, the graphics themselves and the way like the map has been done, giving this open world concept to Pokemon, which we've never really had before. A lot of the setting really encapsulates, or rather is really mimics the graphics of Breath of the Wild, and also a bit of the gameplay as well, as far as crafting items, gathering items, and utilizing them. So really what it is that's what it feels like to me. And I'm not a big Zelda fan myself, but I loved Breath of the Wild, and I played that full, I got all the shrines and stuff like that. So I find it's a really interesting and a nice refreshing change of pace to kind of the turn-based Pokemon from what we're used to, and kind of seems that games are starting to sheer away from the turn-based RPGs a little bit. Like when we saw the Final Fantasy VII remake from last year, that went from turn-based into completely like kind of action-based, kind of taking off the Kingdom Hearts, which saw a tremendous amount of success, has a very huge cult following. So this game, to me, refreshing change of pace. I'm enjoying it right now. I'm just wondering how much is there going to be for post game afterwards is what I'm curious about, because a lot of Pokemon, in the post game, there's a whole lot to do. I'm really curious to see how much post game this one has.
Very, very true. And it's funny that you mentioned Breath of the Wild, because that is where, when it was first revealed, a lot of people, and you know how the gaming internet community is, a lot of people complained about that. But my theory with that, and Solois, maybe you can agree with me, is if you have such a game-breaking open-world concept like Breath of the Wild, why would you not use that engine when you're making open-world games?
Absolutely. I love open-world games. I have zero complaints because, there's a new Sonic open-world game coming out. This is Pokemon. Everything from my childhood is being made exactly how I love things now. I love it. Zero complaints.
Z, would you agree with that as well? Like, how do you feel about the comparisons to Breath of the Wild?
When it comes, I haven't really gotten around to playing much Breath of the Wild, but yeah, I do see some of the comparisons, but at the same time, it's not exactly the same in some aspects. I'm guessing most of you have seen that yourselves.
It's definitely a, sorry, I didn't mean to overstep. It's definitely a Breath of the Wild twist on the series, but there's definitely I agree, a definite difference, slight difference between the different styles of game for sure.
Oh, definitely. But most of all, it's gotten that. I had. Oh, how do I put this? I guess, yeah, just basically that expectation that it would be somewhat of a good game, and it has definitely kept up with those expectations, for sure.
Okay. So I do have some questions for you guys, and most of these will be open-ended, so we'll let each different person start every time. So the first thing is, what have been some of your favorite things about the game? And we will start with you, Solois.
My favorite stuff about the game is the fact that you don't have to progress at all and still find so much stuff to do. I've played it all weekend. I've been sick all weekend with a sinus infection, so it's nothing bad. So I've done nothing but sit around and play this game. And I've only beaten the third Lord, and I just run around, catch stuff, try to find out how to squeeze myself into areas I shouldn't be, which was usually not successful. But it's very awesome because there's so much you can do, so many Pokemon to find. It's fun to just catch Pokemon. The loop of throwing balls and catching Pokemon is unbelievably addicting, and it feels like a kid again, exploring and finding new stuff where new Pokemon are. Rather, it's just the same Starly patch you've seen the 50th time in a row, or something new. It's just awesome. The discovery is just something this series needed so bad.
Gate Guardian, anything you wish to add?
I absolutely love the crafting engine of the game. When crafting is involved in video games, it kind of allows for a level of creativity to really let the user kind of explore what they want to do. So for other games, for example, when I played Fallout 4, like there's a whole bunch of crafting that goes on in that game that really lets you, like, your imagination run wild with it. And then like new to the series, like Animal Crossing had introduced crafting, which really put another level of it already to, the gameplay is, while it's fun, you can kind of get a little bit stagnant with Animal Crossing, but with the crafting, it allows a lot more, for gives you something to do. And I'm a big hoarder when it comes to video games. Like, I love gathering items, I love like stocking them up and storing them. So this game like incentivizes me to keep like going out into the open world and getting a bunch of items. And thankfully, like, apricorns are very plentiful in the game, so you're not really going to run out of any Pokeballs or Great Balls or what have you. So it really encourages having to go out and grab like a bunch of items, whatever you need to craft what you need to be able to go out there and keep going. And then also, on a personal side note for this, is that I love being very stealthy. I love to like sneak up on a lot of Pokemon, and especially that you can catch Pokemon. Like, you get more likely to catch Pokemon if you're able to sneak up on them, also in battle mode too. So I find that feature very intriguing and really beneficial to doing this. So definitely the crafting and being able to sneak up on Pokemon and try to catch them.
Do you got anything that you wish to add to this, Z? Because we're all roughly in about the same spot, so.
Yeah, I haven't gotten as far as you guys have. I'm almost at the third one now, but I've noticed a few things. Like, there have been characters from the normal games, the Diamond and Pearl, that have come back, like the female Cyrus. There's obviously the Dawn and Lucas, obviously with different names. There's obviously Cynthia lookalike. There's the Mars lookalike. I'm not sure if you guys have seen them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've also, like, I think it's the Mirelands. There's a swamp area there that spawns like Carnivine and all that. It makes so much reminiscence of the Pastoria Great Marsh, for example. And there's Slacion Ruins. There's just a lot there.
You actually touched on what has been my favorite part of the game so far, and it is like playing through, like you mentioned, the Mirelands, being in there, and like I'm in this marsh, and because I'm streaming this. I've only played this on stream. I haven't really had a chance to do much over the weekend off camera. Like I'm gonna probably do a lot of my Pokedex completion off camera, because my first stream, I streamed it for like 4 hours and I made no headway in the game at all, because I was just catching everything and exploring everything in the first area. But you definitely hit what has been my favorite part of it, and is the homage to like the future Sinnoh. Like the Great Marsh is there, and we have like the obvious ancestors of like characters like Cyrus and Mars and like Candace. You know, you see all their ancestors, like, or I mean, we're assuming at this point, because like I said, I'm only 3. We're all roughly around the same spot. I myself am only 3 lords into it right now. I'm about to quell my 3rd one, and so seeing like these descendants of all these characters has been like really cool. And then like being in like an area like the Mirelands, and it's like there's Krogunks there, there's Carnivines, and it's like this is like 100% where where Pastoria City is going to be X amount of years into the future. I think that has been I think it's just been very for those of you who don't know, 4th gen is my all-time favorite generation of Pokemon. Diamond, Pearl, the video games, the card game, up until the 6th gen anime series, the animated series, all my favorite parts of this franchise. I love Diamond and Pearl. It's the only game that I've played. It's the only generation that I've played all 3 versions of the game and beaten all 3 versions of the game, because I love it so much. So seeing all this like love to the lore and the legends is amazing. It's been honestly the best part for me.
There's something else I want to touch on. I'm trying to remember it now. Oh, what was it? You, that's right. I'm not sure if you'd classify this as a spoiler, but obviously the arc phone. Obviously, at the beginning of the game, you see the phone get changed into the arc phone. It honestly gives me this feeling like that you are from the future, just being sent back.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes sense. That would be why you have such a good history with Pokemon. You have the arc phone that nobody else has.
No, definitely.
Makes so much sense. At least to me, at least.
So obviously no game is perfect, and I don't know if you guys have read a lot of the reviews. Most of them have been really good, but IGN was actually a little bit more critical, for, you know, as much weight as IGN carries for reviews nowadays. So the question I want to pose to you, and we'll start with you this time, Z. What have you disliked about the game? Because obviously no game is perfect. So what haven't you enjoyed about it?
Honestly, at this point, I can't say I have any dislikes or quarrels with the game. I'm quite enjoying my time with it. I haven't really caught that many Pokemon. Like, I've seen a few here and there. I've just done a little bit of catching for upgrade, basically just to upgrade myself to get the next star for whatever mission I need to do, and then just going and doing the missions, more or less. But I've had no quarrels with it as of yet.
Alrighty. Anybody else want to take? Give me. What do you guys think? Soloist Gate Guardian. What has been your major dislikes with the game? Because like again, no game is perfect. Obviously, we're not fanboys here to that extent. So, any complaints so far?
Well, it doesn't bother me too much, but it is not a great looking game. The performance is a little bad. It's especially hilarious when I first got on that ledge and you saw that Gyarados flying around. You're like, oh, that's cool. A Gyarados is flying. And then he does his circle and enters his like 2 frames a second movement. And it's like, what is that? And I get it; it's far away. The pop in's pretty bad. The art, I think the art style is good, but the graphics are just they normally don't bother me, but it's just Pokemon's the most profitable franchise in the world. How can they not be the best, like have better graphics in this? It doesn't hinder my enjoyment of the game at all. And in fact, it's really the only thing I can think of, but it's not a great looking game. Its art style is very good, but as far as like graphics go alone and performance especially, it could have used a lot of work. And I could see a few patch updates happening for that performance as well, because I know I've been screwed over a lot by pop in of alpha Pokemon coming in, and I'll be like, oh, and then they knock me off my ride, and then next thing I know, here we go, level 60, whatever the heck.
Geek Guardian?
All right. Well, considering how vast the Pokemon series is that where I'm not seeing like Pokemon from every generation yet. I don't know if it's supposed to go up to like all the way up to 4th gen, but it doesn't look like it. So I right now, because I'm in the middle of the game, I'm concerned that we're not really gonna have all the Pokemon that we would like to have. I'm not sure if there's, because I read nothing going into it, so I'm not sure if I could be wrong on this part. But I'm just worried about the Pokemon variety in the game itself, because when we actually like put like all the Pokemon together, like that's what you want to see, because that was a big criticism of Sword and Shield, that it didn't originally include all of the Pokemon. There were many Pokemon left out. My fiance, for example, loves Seal and Dugong, and they weren't in Sword and Shield to my recollection. So just as a note for that. So I'm just concerned to see what the roster is going to look like moving forward in the game, because there might be Pokemon that I would want, but not be able to use in that sense. And I'm just curious to see like if like down the road, are they gonna add more Pokemon, or is it the full roster there? It's too early for me to judge, because there's so many question marks right now, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm sure these answers are going to be given to me like as I finally play the game. But right now, I'm just concerned about like how much of the game are they really gonna put into it now that it's been released. That's what I'm really wondering, or if this is gonna be maybe not like a one-off, but maybe they'll give like one minor update here, one minor update there, or if there's going to be like zero major updates or anything like that, because this is kind of a spin-off game, or maybe this is kind of a testing the waters game. So considering this is the first iteration of this kind of gameplay that we're seeing from Pokemon, this is kind of like they're getting their feet in the water just to test it and see how it is. And if this kind of franchise this kind of like gameplay takes off, perhaps there'll be more of it. But being as like a first game, whatever you don't bring to the table, you're going to leave a lot to be desired. And I'm getting the feeling that this is going to be the case, considering I'm about roughly halfway through the game at this point, and I feel like there's not a lot left for the game to me to offer. So I'm hoping my opinion will change on that.
You actually just segued into my next two questions, actually. And the big one is,
Real quick,
I'm sorry?
that's okay. I just want to put in a little 2 cents there.
Of course.
Like I do agree, and you actually just reminded me of actually one of the things I had a bit of a question with. Like, it's supposed to be a 4th gen game, but yet there's Pokemon like Oshawott and Rowlet in there, which I don't really seem to make sense, in my opinion, anyway. Because like it's supposed to be 4th gen. That we've already seen Pokemon like Turtwig is supposed to be in there. I've seen Pokemon like Pikachu and obviously Tango to Gen 4 and Gen 1, and obviously got Cyndaquil Gen 2 and possibly Gen 3, I believe. I'm not sure what Gen 3 mons are there as of yet, but like the Gen 5 of Oshawott and Gen 7 Rowlet just don't really make all that sense to me.
It seems like it's just the starter Pokemon that have went past Gen 4 so far that I've seen. I think I've seen like Gen 4 like backwards, but the only thing that goes past Gen 4 in my mind, or from what I've seen in my personal experience, is just starters.
Lilligant is Gen 5, I believe. And if you've seen any of the we won't go into, but there have been other in some of the trailers there have been other future Pokemon, but I'm interested to see how if they're going to explain that in the end game, because like for example none of these variants that we've seen so far exist in the current Sinnoh, so I'm interested to see if there's going to be some kind of explanation in either the end game or some post game stuff down the road about explains like why this variant of Scyther doesn't exist anymore, or where it's been all this time. It obviously hasn't been hiding under a, pardon the pun, rock, but like where is Cleavor in Sinnoh? Where is, you know, the variant of Lilligant in Sinnoh? So I definitely think this is raising more questions for hopefully future installments of this style of game. So you guys add in to the game that isn't in here. So mechanically, Pokemon wise, would you have added on to like certain mechanics, like the noble stuff? Would you have changed any of that? So what would you guys, as seasoned Pokemon players, have liked to have seen in this game that wasn't there?
I personally would have liked to have seen some like trainers on the road to battle. I think that because you know when we have trainers on the road, that usually gives us more experience. You know, when we battle as opposed to wild Pokemon, you get less experience. So I would like to see like a little more like trainer battles here and there, because they feel like they're very few, far in between in playing this game. And yeah, it's an open world concept, so I can kind of get why it would be a little bit less frequent. But I would still like to see a little more storyline battles in it, because I feel like once you're kind of thrown out into the world, there's not a lot of like battles in between, and there's not really a lot to like go like consecutive Pokemon after consecutive Pokemon to kind of fight. But again, like this is kind of a test the water situation where they're trying to see if they can stray away from this dynamic a bit, or is this really a dynamic to continue on? Like this game, in my mind, is like a huge experiment, because it's the first ever kind of Pokemon that we're playing in it. So they're really trying to garner like what's good, what's not. So I can kind of see why they would maybe kind of be lacking in a couple things to see how it plays out from there. Kind of listen to the criticisms and then make that for the next iteration of this game moving forward. I had this quick little discussion with my fiance yesterday. Now that they made Arceus, they could start making games and revolve it around like another legendary, like Celebi, for example. You can go with Celebi, you can go with Manaphy, and like it kind of goes on and on and on. It's kind of like, you know, like maybe like the True Crime series where you could say like True Crime Los Angeles, True Crime New York, and then you can kind of go like pick a different city. They can kind of do that with Pokemon here, because you know there's so many different legendaries nowadays. So I think they're just testing it out and trying to figure out like where do you want to play the balance with this game, and then for next iterations put that forward.
Okay. I agree. That's
Sorry.
no, you're good.
No, I finished. Okay. Oh, I noticed. Like, I'm sure you guys have all fought the Cynthia lookalike, Volo, I believe her name is. Like, with her, you saw she had the Togepi, which is very nostalgic to when she gives you the Togepi egg in, I believe it's Platinum. And she has obviously the Gibble, which Cynthia is known to have with the Garchomp. So I'm not sure if there's more of that in the game, but I feel like more trainers having those nostalgic Pokemon for their ancestors that they would have in battle or to give you would make sense.
Agreed.
Just gives that extra nostalgic factor.
For sure.
Make it feel more like the region that you're in.
Soloist?
Like if they would do a... Oh.
No. Sorry, I thought you paused, so I thought you were done. That's my bad. You're fine. Keep going.
Okay. Well, like it's like if they were to do one for like Gen 1 in Kanto, like have a red lookalike with like a Charmander or something, and running around with 3 starters. Like that wouldn't make sense to me.
Okay. Soloist?
So as far as things that I would that I wish had kind of happened, I guess. When this game was first announced as an open world thing, I imagined it, of course, comparing it to Breath of the Wild like you do. So when it was announced and I saw that the game was pretty much set into a bunch of different wild areas that are just bigger, that was fine, and I still think it's fine. But I envisioned it just as one giant open world that you're running around in. You know, the entire thing was open. You know, no fog walls separating you from going. If you had that flying thing, you go over mountains into other areas. That I would have vastly preferred that, but it doesn't take away from my enjoyment at all having the separate areas locked off like they do it. But if there's one thing I think the game could definitely benefit from is letting you throw out more than one Pokemon when you get jumped by multiple Pokemon, because that sucks really bad.
Oh yeah. Agreed.
That is so bad.
Yeah, that happened to me. Like, I had like I had an Alpha Parasect and 2 Paras. I'm like, hold on, what's this 3v1 crap? Where's my double battles?
It's not
Triple
fair at
battles?
all.
I also think one thing that I also think that they're missing is there's only like one giant settlement. Like there's no like other little towns. Like there may be like little tiny camps here and there, but I would have liked to have gone to like different cities. Like, you know, if they had made like, you know, like with like the Warden Pearls, the Warden Rubies, if they had made like more cities to go to and more places to be, I think that would be really good as well. I don't know if that was like a memory issue thing or that's just something they just decided to omit for this game. But I would have loved to go to just like more than one settlement, and then maybe there could have been like a great storyline where like there's like they're warring between each other because we're kind of this is like a setting of like feudal Japan, and like war was like rampant during that time. So maybe that's something for the future. But I would have loved to seen like more like going to another city, and then there's like obviously a huge conflict that's there. You go there to resolve it. You know, I would have liked to see more of that happen. And I also like Solus's point of like just one giant open world rather than going like siphoning off these little sections, because now it just feels like these open worlds aren't really given as much effort, and it doesn't feel like there's as much to explore, whereas if you were like to package them up all together. So I agree with you, Solus, on that point.
Because the clans got to live somewhere. Like the Diamond and Pearl clans have to be somewhere.
Exactly. So the biggest question, and this is, I saved the best for last, you guys. The biggest question I have, obviously I'm a huge competitive. I'm getting huge into competitive VGC again. So that brings this is a kind of a two-part question. Do you think they will incorporate some way right now to add all these new variants into our current battle system? Like, do you think there'll be some way maybe at a direct for Pokemon Day? Because we always have a Pokemon Direct on the 27th of February for Pokemon Day. Do you think there'll be some kind of announcement, maybe that's something that'll link Pokemon Home to Sword and Shield and all this? Because we know there is home compatibility coming for these games. Do you think there'll be some way to incorporate adding in some of these now new type variants and forms into a Sword and Shield to have them competitively? Or do you think that'll be something that they'll add in for Gen 9? Floor is open.
I feel like Gen 9's not too far off at this point, probably. So, in the grand scheme of things anyway. So I don't see it happening for Gen 8. Now, I'm not big in the competitive scene, so I don't know any kind of like habits in the past that could lead to maybe that happening. It could happen, I don't know. But I predict that they'll probably, because that's a lot of loose ends to tie these new forms into the competitive environment in Sword and Shield, because that's as far as I know, that is the game they use for competitive, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I could see them waiting until Gen 9. I don't know how they're gonna do it. Just make it linked with, maybe if this game is as good as people are thinking it is, it's going to be very similar to this game in gameplay style. So it's going to be easy to just bridge that gap, maybe even in battle style. I don't know. So it'd be an easier bridge to gap that way. That's just what I think, though.
I think the gameplay in this game in particular, when it comes to battling, is extremely different from all the other games. And to give you an example, the HP of the Pokemon is astonishingly huge when you are starting the game. Like I'm seeing Pokemon that are already at like 60, 70 HP like right off the hop of the game, as opposed to where like we're used to seeing like around like 20 to start off with. And then on top of that, I feel like defense has been thrown out the window in this game because even when there's like a 20 level difference between Pokemon, I'm seeing roughly like 2 to 3 hits and the Pokemon is KO'd despite like the large level difference. Like if I can score like 3 super effective moves on an alpha, it's going down, which is really weird to see that like 20 levels. It shouldn't take me that many like that few hits to be able to like take down a Pokemon with that. So I feel like there's too much of a difference with the Pokemon in these games compared to the Pokemon of like the actual series itself, the main series. So I don't know if they're going to be able to incorporate the Pokemon this to be transferable into other games, or if they'll make it these Pokemon like separate to be transferred into like next iterations of this game. But unless you're doing like major balance changes, I don't see me being able to take a Pokemon from Arceus and importing it into Sword and Shield unless there's some kind of balance check to it.
Yeah, because like even I've run into the same situation. Like as I mentioned earlier, like I've run into a Tangrowth, which was an alpha, and I beat it in like 2 hits because with a Toxicroak, not Toxicroak, what the
Krogunk.
Okay.
yeah, Krog, thank you. It was level 23, 2 Venishocks, it was dead, and it was not even a problem. So it's like it doesn't really make much sense to me with the whole balancing issue. Because like the defense is just absolutely, as you said, bonkers. It's all over the place.
Definitely. And finally, we alluded to it in this question. Is this the future of the core series? Do you see? Okay, I guess the better question is, how can this not be the future of the core series? And because I don't know about you guys, I would not go back to playing the main series if it goes back to the way it was. I feel like after playing something like this, I feel like this has to be where the future of like the main series, like our 9th generation, has to be, maybe not in this exact style, but something a lot closer to this than what we've had before.
Like there was also something I wanted to touch on before, but like I might as well say it now. Like the whole agile, strong styles kind of fighting mechanic there. Like I'm still not 100% sure on how that all works, but it does seem to be like you can either do more damage or it's just a lot faster, and you can get more off. And plus, I'm not sure if any of you guys have noticed, moves like Stealth Rock do damage now instead of just throwing it being a status move. It's an actual physically damaging move that eventually latches onto them, and then like a turn or two later does damage to them even more.
Yeah, I definitely did notice that.
Some of the moves, even double hit, it just allows you to. It's no longer an attacking move; it's become a status move, and increases the damage. It's just like moves in this game have changed so dramatically since back then. Especially moves that we are so used to seeing, especially with Stealth Rock, for example. Stealth Rock is very well known.
Yeah, so but that's a definitely a good point. A lot of the moves change. That even factors into my Gen 9 question. Like, what do you take from this game, and how do you incorporate it into a future series? Because obviously, like I said earlier, that's how this has to go. I think I cannot go back to playing Pokemon main series the way it's been after playing this, and I'm sure you guys will probably in agreement.
Look, I could. Oh, sorry. I'll cut you off there. You go on.
It's fine. It's fine. I feel like it would be okay. I like a lot of the moves like Stealth Rock being different is mostly due to the fact that there's not a lot of trainers in the game, and it would have like no use for you at all. So they changed the function to make it more useful more of the time. And even then, I've not ran into a trainer that had more than 2 Pokemon so far. So the easy fix to that, I think, is just to mix the two together, add in more trainers, but keep the same gameplay style. That way, moves like Stealth Rock can go back. And I'm not sure if they changed it, but sleep doesn't work. That too. I put things to sleep and they still hit me. Like, what's going on with that? What's
Yeah,
how does that work?
I saw that myself. Like, you'd get put to sleep, you'd still able to attack, and then like you'd be able to go from being. I at one point was paralyzed. Then this is all like I said before with the 2 parasites and the parasites. One paralyzed me, then the next one poisoned me. Then I got put to sleep by the parasites with spore. I'm like, what the heck is with these the multiple stat changes to my effects? But
Yeah.
yeah, onto the Gen 9 thing, like, I can imagine them doing something. What I would like to see is, like, something like this, open world, but a lot like, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, for example, where you could, like, ride around on your Pokemon. Like, actually fly around on the Charizard in an open world. Ride around on Arcanine or something in the open world. Instead of just getting only certain Pokemon to do it with. Or if you have like a Pikachu ad, sit on your shoulder, Eevee on your head, for example. Just have those Pokemon there and still have that open world fighting.
Okay.
So I don't think that this is going to become the new normal for Pokemon. As you know, I think the way the main series has went, I think they want to keep it that way. Like, we've seen so many different like spin-offs and different iterations of the way Pokemon is played, and I think they want to keep with the tried and true method of what they have now. Now, I can believe that they can incorporate some of these elements of this game into the new game. Like, perhaps, for example, maybe I don't know how they would adapt this into the main game, but maybe they want to start doing like the agile style into it. Maybe they want to do that. Maybe they want to start making like crafting items. Now you can start to craft your own items. Maybe in the whatever Gen 9 is going to have, but I still think they're going to keep the turn base in a sense. And not too much on top of this, I haven't found any multiplayer in this iteration at all. So I correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no way from what I know that I could play with my fiance right now. All we can do is just simply trade, and I don't think they're going to ever take out multiplayer with the success that they've seen with Sword and Shield being able to do the Dynamax caves together for one thing. So I don't think they're going to take away the element where they want to be able to play together, especially since we've been in a pandemic for the last 2 years. That like being able to play like together has been like a very huge thing for a lot of franchises. And then as we keep going with this theme, we've seen gimmicks where with Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, where you got to actually have like a Pokeball and throw it at the screen to be able to catch your Pokemon. We haven't seen that since. Like, I still have my Pokeball. I keep holding on to it, thinking that the next games they're gonna allow me to use this Pokeball to use it. We don't do that anymore, and the way to catch Pokemon isn't the way that you would catch in Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, like they would like Pokemon Go style. It's kind of going back to the way it was before, like where you don't actually battle them, you just try to catch them with a Pokeball. So we've seen evidence that they're not going to take a whole lot of features that have been in other iterations and use it for other games, but I can see them borrow a few things from this and then go into the next games. Like maybe like the Lost Satchels, for example, maybe they'll implement that kind of system with a merit point system moving forward. Maybe they'll do that, but I personally don't believe that they're going to make all the games moving forward like this. However, I can see that they'll make other iterations of this kind of playstyle in Pokemon moving forward. So maybe it'll be like the other part of Pokemon that kind of. So maybe like the alternate years. Like maybe so next year we're gonna get Gen 9 with the turn based, and then maybe the year after that we'll get we'll get this open world concept of it of Arceus the next year. That I can see that happening, and this being like a part of the new Pokemon series moving forward. But I don't see this becoming the main series going forward.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming. Oh.
I just want to quickly say something about the multiplayer. Like, they had the mini games and that, like the running around and that. They could have added like co-op on that, like racing, see who got how many points, and then you earn items based off your score.
At least a leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like a leaderboard, even that would have been great.
Like in Mario Odyssey when you had the jump rope. The jump rope.
That thing sucks. Hate it.
I still wouldn't consider that multiplayer. You're competing against the world, but you're not really competing in real time. So I wouldn't consider that multiplayer.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. This game gives me, like, my childhood dream was to have a Pokemon MMO, and this game feels like the bones of one. Like, it obviously won't work, but it feels like you could twist it enough to make it work. So, like, it'll never happen. I'm not saying it's the Pokemon MMO is on its way, but, like, I'll dream it a lot. And if it does happen, like, save this YouTube video. I'll be the prophet.
Evidence right here.
100%. Well, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Thank you for joining me for this I guess podcast style YouTube video. Definitely new for me, a little out of my comfort zone. So thank you for being my guinea pigs, so to speak. And because we all love Pokemon, and this game has so much hype to it, I wanted to get some initial thoughts and opinions on it, especially after the first weekend, because obviously I don't think anybody, well, unless you're like speed running or like streaming nonstop, I don't think a lot of people have beaten this game right off the bat. So it's definitely nice, especially nice to get opinions from people who are roughly about the same spot that I am. So thank you guys for coming out and hanging out with us, and definitely it's going to be something I might look into doing more of in the future. So thank you guys.
Always come back to us later on after we've all finished the game and come back and do it again.
That is true. That is an idea.
Let's just do a Pokemon podcast. Let's just not mess around.
Let's
that's the thing now.
Is this the makings of a Pokemon podcast?
Absolutely.
I'm down.
Just the four of us. Crap about Pokemon.
Good time.
So I will say though, it is kind of a refreshing change of pace to be on the other side of the podcast rather than like typically being the host, kind of being a guest rather. It's kind
Absolutely.
Of a nice
Oh yes, it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah,
there you go.
And especially being as a journalist myself, I'm so used to asking people so many questions. So it's kind of nice when people get to ask me questions for
answering them's a lot better.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun for sure.
All right, you guys, I appreciate this immensely, and have yourselves a great night and continue to enjoy playing Pokemon Legends Arceus. And who knows, maybe I will take up Z on that offer, and when we get a little bit further, when we've all beaten the game, maybe we'll sit back and we'll have another updated discussion.
I'm down.
But have yourselves a great night, you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.